family of Suleiman Fakiri prepare to close a painful chapter.
And if these recommendations are not implemented, then we will have other tragedies. Mark my word.
And we'll take you live to a vigil to honor Fakiri just days after a coroner's inquest declared his death at the hands of jail guards a homicide. Plus,
we're feeding 1 in 10 Torontonians now.
Hundreds of volunteers come together to sort through donations to tackle the growing food insecurity. And
as soon as he came around that corner, the kids just came rushing to him, and the whole room just teared up.
The spirit of giving is in full swing this holiday season, with organizations across the province bringing smiles to kids' faces, one gift at a time.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Hi everyone, a vigil is taking place this hour for Suleiman Fakiri. It comes just days after a coroner's inquest declared his 2016 death at the hands of jail guards a homicide. Sarah Macmillan is at the vigil at Yonge and Dundas Square and joins us now live. Sarah, what's happening there right now?
Hi, Greg. Well, people are just starting to arrive here at Yonge and Dundas Square for this vigil. They're here to remember, as you said, Suleiman Fakiri. He died in 2016 at the Central East Correctional Center in Lindsay. And ever since then, his family has been searching for justice and searching for answers. Now, they say as of this week, they are one step closer to that goal. I spoke with Suleiman's brother, Yusuf Fakiri, earlier today.
There's a moment of relief. We're able to breathe a little bit. And for me to look at Suleiman and say bro, the country now knows what happened to you. You were heard and seen.
Yusuf Fakiri says the coroner's inquest has finally provided answers and confirmed what his family has been saying all along.
Hearing the word homicide, the truth is out there now. That Suleiman Fakiri lost his life at the hands of correctional officers.
No one was ever charged in connection with the violent altercation that left Fakiri dead, face down in a jail cell. But this week, the inquest jury said it should be considered a homicide. The verdict carries no legal consequence, though police could choose to reopen their criminal investigation. The inquest jury also presented 57 recommendations aimed at preventing similar deaths in custody.
And we have an opportunity here. We have an opportunity to really turn a page and to transform Connections, because if we don't, and if these recommendations are not implemented, then we will have other tragedies. Mark my word.
Suleiman Fakiri was suffering from schizoaffective disorder. The inquest heard his mental condition was deteriorating while in custody, and he never received a medical evaluation. Howard Sapers is the former correctional investigator of Canada.
What was really striking about this set of circumstances is that everyone who came in contact with Mr. Fakiri recognized his illness. And even with that, the system was incapable of getting him into safer circumstances.
While certain recommendations have already been made in the past and not acted on, Saper says he remains optimistic for change. Yusuf Fakiri says he's still waiting to see those changes and for criminal accountability, but with the inquest's findings released, he feels ready to close a long and difficult chapter.
Suleiman will always be in my heart, and the love that I have for my late brother will never decrease. I'm a better person today because of Suleiman in my life. And I hope when people hear about my brother know that this is someone that was beyond his illness, and this was someone who deserved much better.
Now, after 7 years of grieving, of advocacy, of searching for answers, and after 7 years of annual vigils, the family says tonight's vigil will be the last, though they say they are still watching closely for any changes and action that come from this. Now, Ontario's Ministry of the Solicitor General says it will be carefully reviewing the recommendations and responding to the Office of the Chief Coroner. Now, back to you, Greg.
Thank you, Sarah. That's Sarah Macmillan reporting live from Yonge and Dundas Square. In other news, the OPP is investigating a single vehicle crash that left one man dead near Brockville. This is the area where the crash happened on Sharps Lane. According to the OPP, officers learned about the crash around 1:30 a.m. The car involved had gone off the road. A 24-year-old driver from Brockville was pronounced dead at the scene. And here's another collision to tell you about. This one happened just after 5 a.m. on Highway 400 near Bass Pro Mills. A vehicle collided with a concrete highway divider and was struck by a transport truck after the vehicle stopped in a lane. The driver of the vehicle suffered serious injuries and has been arrested for impaired driving. Roads in the area have since reopened. And we turn now to the situation in the Middle East. There are reports that negotiations are taking place for the release of more hostages held in Gaza. They say the head of the Mossad met with the Prime Minister of Qatar, the country that's assumed a mediator role. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu referred to negotiations today but did not disclose their subject. The reports follow the deaths of 3 hostages who were mistakenly killed by Israeli troops. Chris Reyes has the latest.
In a long-ranging news conference, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that his country is in an existential war with Hamas, a war that he says must be fought until victory, despite the pressure and costs. His comments come after the Israeli Defense Force released new details over 3 hostages killed in Gaza by Israeli soldiers. According to the IDF's investigation, the hostages were dressed in civilian clothes and waving a white flag. Israeli Army Chief Herze Halevi said he and the IDF are responsible for what happened and will do everything to prevent such incidents in the future, adding that the shooting was carried out during combat and under pressure. The IDF report concluded that the soldiers involved in the shooting did not follow IDF's own rules of engagement. In Tel Aviv, thousands gathered under banners that said, "Time is running out." Many are angry over those new details and want the Netanyahu government to strike a deal to get hostages back.
The Israeli government needs to be active. They need to put an offer on the table, including prisoners with blood on their hands.
Terrible tragedy, and I think a deal should have been made much, much earlier. And all those lives of all the innocent people could have been spared. I think it's a big tragedy what's happening.
In Gaza, where it is another day of death and destruction, a funeral service for Al Jazeera journalist Abu Daka, who was killed while covering the war.
How many more people should die? I think the solution is not the continuation of this terrible war, which will take lives of Palestinians as well as Israelis, but to stop the war.
At today's briefing, Netanyahu said after Hamas's defeat, Gaza will be demilitarized and under Israeli control. Netanyahu said Israel will not be acting on requests for a ceasefire and removal of troops in Gaza. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
Now back here in the province, parents across Ontario are feeling a sense of relief. Public elementary school teachers agreed to avoid a strike by voting 90% in favor of accepting a new deal with the province. The 4-year agreement applies to over 80,000 union members. The deal includes some retroactive pay due to legislation that capped wage increases at 1% yearly. In a statement to CBC Toronto this morning, Education Minister Stephen Lecce said he is pleased the ETFO ratified their teachers' central agreement. The vote still needs to be ratified by the school boards to take effect. That is scheduled for next week. And hundreds of volunteers got to work earlier today at the Daily Bread Food Bank, packing essential items for food insecure families in the GTA. And as Patrick Swadden explains, it comes as food banks are living a historic high.
A massive operation underway at the Daily Bread Food Bank as people roll up their sleeves for the annual holiday public food sort, a chance to give back to families facing hunger this holiday season.
And it doesn't matter where we are in the world, we make sure that we are here for that sort.
And she's not the only one.
There are over 200 volunteers here today, and the Daily Bread Food Bank says they're going to need them because there's been a 51% increase in food bank visits in Toronto this year compared to last.
That means 1 million more food bank visits in 2023 as crisis-level demand surges across the city.
We're feeding 1 in 10 Torontonians now, and we're seeing that because there is a lack of affordable housing. Precarious employment is on the rise.
With demand far and away the highest in its history, CEO Neil Hetherington saying Daily Bread saw just under 300,000 client visits last month, giving each volunteer their own reason to help out.
It's a good example because, I mean, not everyone is fortunate enough, and we're lucky that we are. Every year I bring my children, and that was one of the coolest things, is for them to see and how we give back to the community.
We have to look after each other. That's the whole point of living.
But together joining their voices and saying,
enough is enough when it comes to food insecurity. We want to do something about it. So they're here to sort food, but at the same time, they're raising their voices together and saying, why is it that food bank usage is as high as it is right now?
Hetherington says we need to ask more of our leaders, municipally, provincially, and federally.
We in leadership and in all levels of government need to do better at addressing these problems from the root, through policy, through funding, and through resourcing, so that all people who call Canada, Toronto, Ontario home feel warm and welcome and safe and supported here.
But until that happens, the message is clear. Torontonians need to rely on each other.
Please give. Please give as much as you can this holiday season and throughout the years. People need this more than ever.
Patrick Swadden, CBC News, Toronto.
And to a downtown Loblaw store now, where demonstrators gathered to demand a halt to grocery price gouging and a cost freeze for staple food items.
We are desperate. We should be celebrating, not protesting. This is the holidays, and we should be in our homes. But we are pressured to come here because the raising of the food are outrageous.
The Fair Food for All rally drew several people who gathered across the street from the store. Toronto Acorn says today's demonstration comes as Canadians continue to struggle to put food on their tables, while yearly profit margins of grocery chains like Loblaws continue to soar due to high food prices. Price gouging allegations have been pushed back by Loblaw's CEO. Speaking at the House of Commons back in March, Galen Weston said Loblaws has, quote, minimal influence on food inflation, adding that the grocery chains operate with extremely small profit margins. And temperatures were on the milder side in Toronto today, which makes for a perfect skating weather. The Bentway opened its skating trail for the winter season this afternoon.
Bentway Skate Trail is really important in terms of being able to have accessible winter activities, be able to gather and enjoy the season, but also to learn a new skill and meet each other. You know, it's that warmth of community that is what we love about our winters in Toronto and in Canada.
I'm personally not a skater, so when I do skate the Bentway Trail, we've got skate aids to hold you up. But you see a lot of people skating here for the first time with their families. Particularly adults skating with their kids, where their kids actually know how to skate better than they do.
The 220-meter skate trail underneath the Gardiner Expressway loops around the path in a figure-8 shape. Free skate rentals and hot chocolate were available to the public today to celebrate the season's kickoff. So you'll be able to glide or slip, slide, and tumble along the Bentway skating trail. That until February 19th. Now we're joined with Sophia Cambalia. So she joins us now with our first look at weather. Now, Sophia, tell us, will we really need our hats and maybe our gloves when we go skating this weekend?
It certainly didn't look like it there, did it? It is a mild, damp, and dreary weekend, as it really has been for much of this month and last month as well. In fact, our overnight temperatures are warmer than our daytime high should normally be. And yesterday, Toronto was one of the hot spots in the entire country. Why do we have this unseasonable warmth? You can blame the classic El Nino pattern. It's the warming of ocean surface temperatures, and we feel that warmer and milder ocean air up north during a classic El Nino pattern. This year is especially stronger. A lot more warmer water felt a lot higher north, which is making for really abnormal warmth across really the entire country. Look at the lack of snowfall totals on the ground at all the populated areas of our country, especially around the GTA. We would need another meter of snowfall to make it to where we normally are by January the 1st, which is usually about 40 centimeters of snowfall. We've had about 10 recorded on the ground at Pearson right now, but speaking of snow and rain, there is a little bit more to come this weekend. Heavy rain in parts of eastern Ontario. I'll give you the totals and the timing in the long range. There's a big system heading up the U.S. eastern seaboard. We will be grazed by it. Rainy throughout the day Sunday. Cold air in behind for Monday with some lake effect snow for the traditional snow belts, just like we have seen about 5 or 6 times already this last winter season. Not a lot of snow to talk about for Toronto, but I'll have all the totals and the timing for you when we come back at the end of the show.
A beluga has died at Marineland. This death brings the total of white whales that have died at the Niagara Fall tourist attraction to 15 since 2019. Ontario's Animal Welfare Services has been investigating Marineland since 2020. The Ministry of the Solicitor General says since then it's been made aware of the deaths of 14 beluga whales, 1 orca, 1 bottlenose dolphin, 2 seals, and 2 California sea lions. Marineland did not respond to a request for comment, but says on its website that it has a strong record of providing for the welfare of its animals and will continue to prioritize their health and well-being. Now this week, Quebec issued an updated policy on proposed tuition hikes for out-of-province students, announcing it's still going to cost more to go to McGill and Concordia, and that 80% of students attending these institutions must learn to speak level 5 French by the end of their undergraduate studies. But how feasible is that? CBC Yonens Reynolds has more.
The Quebec government says starting in the fall of 2025, out-of-province and international students who come to study at Quebec's English universities will have to learn French. Specifically, they'll have to attain a level 5 oral proficiency. Now, this includes students here at McGill, at Concordia, and Bishops in the Eastern Townships. So what exactly does it mean to be at a level 5? Well, according to the province's official French proficiency scale, there are 12 different levels for people who are learning. And level 5 is the first stage of intermediate. It essentially means being able to converse on common topics.
You're not going to have in-depth conversations about, history or philosophy or, kind of more complex issues. But a learner at that level will be able to kind of describe what they do, what they enjoy, things they maybe did yesterday, things they'll do tomorrow.
But is it actually feasible to get to this level while studying? Well, our expert says yes, but he says it all depends on how you go about it.
If they were kind of intensive and that was all they were doing, they'd be looking at probably 4 to 6 months of kind of intensive language instruction. If you're looking over several years, it would require, again, a fairly, diligent commitment of several hours per week.
But that's the part some students are worried about. I spoke to one McGill student from Ontario who's actually learning French right now.
So I think it's a great idea in theory, but I'm waiting to see whether they have the resources put in place to really support that. You need to create some sort of immersive experience in Montreal or at whatever university the student is at.
It's still unclear how universities will get their students to a level 5 proficiency and what evaluating them at the end of their education will look like. Sharon Yonan Reynolds, CBC News, Montreal.
But we're trying to reach as many as we can so that every child in Scarborough has a Christmas.
With only a couple days left before Christmas, some Torontonians are doing everything they can to spread the holiday joy and toys with families in need. That's coming up after the break. Well, it might still be a week before Christmas, but some Scarborough families got a visit from Santa today. All part of this year's Toronto Police Auxiliary Toy Drive.
Merry Christmas! The first one that we went to, the first shelter, Santa, as soon as he came in, the kids were waiting around the corner down a long corridor. And as soon as he came around that corner, the kids just came rushing to him. And just, the whole room just teared up. It's just amazing. I'm going to do it now. It's very emotional from start to finish.
Hundreds of children in need received an early Christmas present from the hands of Santa. Toys are donated by the community, including local businesses and students from area schools. From Victoria Park Avenue to Kingston Road and along Ellesmere, the annual tradition spread the holiday spirit through the city's East End, marking its 30th edition. And the Centre of the Beach community in Toronto hosted a Cram de Van event today to spread some Christmas joy with toys for families in need.
We've had an amazing turnout. A lot of people from the community have already come out and they've done their own toy drive, so we're very grateful for that. This is kind of our one last shot to get as many donations in as possible. Part of the reason for that is we are really witnessing unprecedented demand for our services this year, so we're just trying to keep up as much as we can.
The Share a Christmas program is in its 42nd year. Community Center 55 is accepting unwrapped toys as well as any gift card or cash donations that can be given as presents to older children and teens. Volunteers will be sorting and packing the toys tomorrow evening, and then they will be delivered to families on Monday morning. And with no sign of snow in mid-December and temperatures above zero, many are wondering when can they hit the ski hills. A non-for-profit ski hill in London that just opened this weekend is finding innovative ways to make sure there's still lots of snow for people to enjoy. Take a look.
And so this machine uses a big fan to blow out the water that's coming out of these nozzles. And in the center, we have a nozzle that acts as a nucleator or a seed for the water droplet so that it freezes the water in the small water particles. The positive temperature is running right now, and we're making a bit of snow with it. And we're, looking at the forecast, a couple more weeks, and then we drop down into more seasonable temperatures. It looks like we just got to get through this little bumpy road, and then the new year's looking good. But we have lots of production around the hill. It's just this side was what we were able to put together, and a few more nights out there, we'll be able to get some more trails.
So, Sophia, it's sounding like it'll be the next couple weeks that we'd be able to sort of get some ski hills with natural snow.
I think we need one of those machines at our houses to have a white Christmas this year. Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath for a white Christmas, but definitely ski hills have a better shot in the second half of the winter season in an El Nino and a strong El Nino pattern. As we talked about earlier in the show, we typically have a much milder winter, but that doesn't mean that we won't have some shots of colder air later in the season. Look at this, nearly 10 days above seasonal. That's in yellow. So far this month, we have had way less, as we talked about earlier, than the average snowfall that we normally get in December, and we've been way warmer than we normally are. December normal is -2. Thunder Bay reached its warmest December temperature yesterday, or rather 2 days ago, December the 14th, smashing the old record at 13.7. It'll be warm enough for rain all the way as far north as James Bay as we head into the next 24 hours. So I hope that you put out all of those holiday decorations. Today, it was certainly the better of the 2 weekend days. Mild push of southerly flow and some Gulf moisture will mean soaring temperatures again over the next day or so, along with a ton of rain, especially for those of you in the eastern portion of the province, where anywhere from Brockville to Ottawa could see up to 60 millimeters of rainfall, about 10 to 20 for everybody else. And then, correct me if you've heard this again, a bit of a broken record. In behind this rainy system, we will have that lake effect snow machine with some colder air. The northwest flow is there with a cool lobe of air in place for Monday. We build that ridge back up and are above seasonal, though, to finish off the rest of the week between Wednesday and Friday. We are again above seasonal with that mild push of air and tons of sun into next weekend, which, of course, we are waiting for Santa's big arrival. It's not going to look very Christmas-like out there.
All right, Sophia, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And that's our show for you tonight. I'm Gregory Wilson.